Live and guys. Hello, you're very welcome along to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. I'm chatting away to the guys off air as we came on. My name's Daniel Hussey, standing in for the great Tom Stanley, who's missing this week, but fear not, he'll be back next week and will be with us all the way through to the jump season. I'm delighted to welcome back, firstly, Adele Mulrennan. Adele, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully we get off to a bang.
Yeah, I think 2023 is the year of the Matchbook Podcast for sure. And Dan, overall, you're back. Welcome along. Happy New Year to you too. Good Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Happy New Year to you too. Yeah, you just can't get rid of me, it seems. I'm on every week, regular, always on time. Yeah. Just the regular fixture these days, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'll be chatting to the producer post-recording. Micheál Deasy, Matchbook's Micheál Deasy. We're going to be doing a lot of Cheltenham up to the festival. It's a brilliant time. I can feel the excitement. You just couldn't wait to be on the podcast this week.
Yeah, that was it. I've been trying to get on for the last few weeks, but it just didn't work out. But Cheltenham fever now is that's the sickness I got over Christmas, and can't wait now. And there's a great card this week now. There's going to be some good clues here, and looking forward.
Absolutely. And look, we'll be doing a lot of stuff with our brand ambassador, Ollie Murphy. DC, very briefly on the series, episode 3 and 4 are out. The first 4 episodes are out, and they've been going down quite well. They're very interested in following the horse's journey all the way from the sales right through to the racetrack.
Yeah, we're very happy with how it has been received. We kind of want the goal is to educate people and what goes on with horses before they get to the track and how they get to the track. And we're well into planning now for episode 5 and 6. We'll hopefully be going over in February to see one of the horses from episode 4 actually go to the races. So that's something to look forward to as well.
Absolutely. So if you haven't missed any of those episodes, keep an eye on the Matchbook YouTube channel. And if you are watching on YouTube, do hit that like button and get involved with the show with comments or indeed on the live chat. And if you're listening to the podcast or at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen, we'd really appreciate a 5-star review. On we go. We're going to be covering 8 races. It's light enough in terms of quality, but I would say the Tolworth Hurdle is quite a decent field. So let's take a look at the betting firstly, as we have it at matchbook.com. This is fascinating. The top 3 in the betting in particular. You can back Tamaras currently at 3.25. Authorized speed, the same price, 3.25. Arctic Brazil traveling over from Ireland for Henry de Bromhead is 4.5. Lastro Boys 13.0. Nemo Online is 17.0, and Conal Harry is 34.0. Blow Your Wad 34.0, and Uka Tango is 34.0. I mentioned all the horses DC because I go to you first on this one. You do like one at a price here with course and distance form.
Yeah, this one is based on. So I've been looking at the weather for Sandown. It's soft at the moment, but there is a small bit of rain today, and there's a good bit of rain tomorrow morning. So this is very much based on if it goes heavy or a bit soft. And this, the one I picked out was Colonel Harry for Jamie Snowden. He won by 7 lengths in an absolute slog of a race in November. I think there was only 5 horses finished out of 11. But he absolutely scooted up the hill, loved the ground. He's currently about 34.0. He's a big price. And if the ground turns heavy, we should have a good idea of it by the time Tolworth is run. I'll definitely have a small win place bet on him. But the other one I think the winner is authorized speed. I think he's had 2 runs over the course and distance. He's won like his last run over the course and distance. Like he's won by 15 lengths and 6.5 lengths this year, and 6.5 lengths at Sandown. Sandown getting up the hill is fairly impressive. I think I'd say he's a good horse, and Gary Moore is in good form, but he's a skinny enough price, and it's a very open race. So I wouldn't be putting the house on him, but I think he's the most likely winner.
Yeah, he's a very exciting horse for the Moors, and then the other horse you mentioned there, Colonel Harry. The race was over for most of those horses, two out. So the fact he stayed on course and distance, he's definitely promising. Adele, I'm very fascinated that you've gone with the Irish runner here. Is it just as simple as thinking you're going to go with the Irish novice form over the English, or is there something a bit more to it?
I couldn't believe it. I thought DC might have gone for the Irish horse.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
I can't believe I'm the only one. No, I just really like this horse's performance at Cork, and he looks like he's got a really a serious engine with plenty of pace as well, which will really suit Sandown. He stays a bit further again, so that's needed at a stiff track. I know they paid obviously a lot of money for him when he finished second in a point-to-point, and that was over 3 miles, so he clearly does stay a little bit further. But just like all the positive vibes about this horse, and at the prices, I thought, why not take a chance with the Irish horses as they come over. They certainly Robbie Power, who does the placing for them. I just thought he seemed to have this race in mind for him. So I've got the utmost respect for Authorized Speed. He's by Authorized, who's quite a quirky stallion who I quite like. They just get better and better with age. They've got a lot of ability if you can kind of tap them in the right place, because they can be quite quirky. But I just thought Arctic Brazil looked quite straightforward in like his mannerism. So he looks quite straightforward. Hopefully he'll go around and win. But can't believe we go with the Irish horse.
But it's interesting you say, Adele, Robbie Power, because he's recently joined Henry de Brabant as the racing planner. Maybe over to you, Dees, on this. I guess like he hasn't usually sent his novice hurdlers over to England, so that might be a Robbie Power sort of move, perhaps. Or
yeah, I suppose he's obviously looking for an angle, looking for something different. Like there's no negatives to this horse. The only thing I was thinking of was that Cork is an extremely flat track. Cork is like a greyhound track. It's just flat all around. And I was just wondering that maybe in soft ground and Sandown, maybe he won't be able to quicken like he did. That was the only reason I didn't tip him. That was the only negative I had. But it's not really a huge negative either. So
yeah. And Dad, there's a question for you. Are you not worried about the de Brabant head horses travelling? To be honest, I don't think it's too small a sample this season to have any concerns there at all.
No, he doesn't have a great record at Sandown. That's what I was kind of more worried about. But like Deasy said, there's just not many negatives about this horse apart from the track and ground, which he stays 3 miles what he looked like on his point-to-point form. So I think he should be fine. The ground, he's by what was his size? Blue Brazil, who handled soft ground. So French stallion. So he should be absolutely fine. So I'm hoping those little negatives are just very, very little negatives.
Yeah. Dan, over to you. Yeah, go on, Dees,
Brazil had a good runner in this race last year as well. Constitution Hill.
He was not bad.
No, yeah.
Not bad.
He did all right. Yeah. I do remember watching this weekend last year and just that's a serious horse. Obviously went against him in the Supreme. Dan, you're going for one at a price here.
Yeah, well, this is a fascinating race. I think the fact you can make convincing cases for the likes of Colonel Harry, who sit pretty towards the bottom of the market, I think speaks to the depth of this race as well. Looking from a betting angle, you've got Tamuras and Authorized Speed, who I respect both of them. Probably I'd favour Authorized Speed of the two. They take a decent chunk of the market, and when you've got 8 runners, obviously you're looking for an each-way angle, and especially when there's such big price discrepancies, which led me to Lastro Boy. And now, considering he beat Tamuras in a bumper last season on his racecourse debut, you can argue that the price discrepancy is still too big. He was a bigger price yesterday. It seems a few people have latched onto that form line because I think he was 26-ish, and now he's obviously shortened quite significantly, but I still think there's a bit of juice there. And now you can argue simultaneously that Tamuras was quite keen that day in that bumper, but simultaneously, like Evan Williams' first-time bumper winners are an extremely rare occurrence. Before Lastro Boy, you had to go back to 2018 to find the last one, and he had 52 attempts in that time, so they're not common. He went off at 25-1, so clearly wasn't geared for that, and still won in the manner of a pretty smart horse. He then won on his hurdling debut as well. Now, the form isn't fantastic, but he travelled like a good horse in that race. And despite some greenness at the last hurdle where he gave the runner-up a chance, he powered away up the straight really effortlessly, to be honest. It was very much hands and heels at the end, and he was extremely strong at the line, which suggests to me, as does his action, that he'll quite relish the stiff, heavy ground 2 miles at Sandown. And again, look at Evan Williams' first time out hurdle winners. They don't happen often either. And when they do happen, they tend to be decent horses. I think Current Mood was the one from last season. Obviously, she was a decent mare, competed in all the graded races last season. Before that, it was Stargate. He was the only one of the previous season. He was second in the Challow. And you go back to the other horses who managed to achieve that, they've always been his kind of stalwarts in that yard, like Esprit de Large, Secret Reprieve, obviously, who won a Welsh National. His best horses can win first time out. And I think there's a feeling Lastro Boy could be one of the best he's had for a while.
Okay, you mentioned it was tipped up in a few places yesterday, the Lastro Boy, but a bit of juice still in that 13.0. So a lot of different opinions on that, guys. Very quickly on the Paul Nichols runner, I was very impressed with him as he came, I think, from the back of the last to the line. He really kind of stormed up. Any sort of opinions on it? I guess it's not necessarily negative against the horse, perhaps.
I was worried about the ground for this horse. If it did come up really, really soft, then I was kind of best friends on good to soft ground. But he's not really raced on anything heavier, so wasn't quite sure with him. He was a bit of a question mark.
Cool. And Adele, with the ground, there's rain forecast, so it is going to go quite soft. Not heavy soft, I guess, but just softer.
had Megan Nichols text me yesterday wanting some boots for the paddocks because she said it's going to be really wet down there. It's got a bad forecast. So yeah, by the sounds of it, it's going to be pretty wet.
I think it's going to be Sandown heavy on the hurdles track, to be honest, by the time we get to this race. And we know that can be a real slog.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so a lot of interesting picks for the guys there to watch, go for the Tolworth. It may be one to watch perhaps, and the 225 in Sandown. We're going to go back in time to the 115 in Sandown. Take a look at the betting as you currently have it at matchbook.com. This is 2.5 mile handicap chase. You can back them around at 3.01 currently. PJB 4.43, Skippy on 6.29, certainly red at 8.45, and bigger prices the rest. There's 8 runners again in this field. So we'll stick with you, Dan, on this one. You like one at a price here?
Yeah, there's a theme. I've been trying to look for the value throughout these cards because I think there are some favourites I'm willing to kind of oppose. On the favourite briefly, I can completely see why he's at the head of the market. Obviously, Venetia won this race last time with Fairnay. The form of Gemmeran's last run is extremely strong with Arjet bolting up next time out. But I think it's worth noting that after that race at Southall, Charlie Deutsch did note that he really appreciated that track and on that ground. Somebody Southall's a sharp left-handed track, and now he's going to a softer, heavy ground Sandown, which is right-handed, more galloping. Just whether the track might catch him out, I'm not sure. And at the price, I'm willing to oppose. I think PJB is a very interesting horse as well, but I'm just concerned coming to Sandown after a fall very quickly. I think he's handicapped to win a race, but he does seem to jump quite low, and that could catch him out, especially down the back at Sandown. So I landed on Sopran 4. Now, speaking of jumping, this is a horse who does need to jump better than we last saw him. But we know he's capable of this sort of mark. First time out last season, he bolted up in a soft ground handicap at Lingfield off this mark. So we know soft ground poses no issues to him. Second time out, he ran very well under a penalty to a horse who subsequently won his next 2 starts. And he's now £17 higher in the handicap. So he has some decent back form from last season. After that, it was a bit hit and miss, but I say he's back on his last winning mark. He's got soft ground in his favour, and we know Gary Moore does like to target these Sandown meetings, and he won this race in 2019 with Larry for the same owners. So at a price, I thought he was worth a bit of a speculative play.
Yeah, and Dees, another one at a price, 11.0. We didn't mention Precious Eleanor, you like?
Yeah, I went through. This is actually the race I spent the most time on because I just couldn't. This is a no-bet race until about 20 minutes ago, but I picked out Precious Eleanor last night, and the main reason I suppose for it was that this is going to be a jumping test, and if you go through all these horses and look at her run at Warwick last year, it was the most impressive bit of chase jumping that I've seen out of all of them. She was absolutely brilliant. She just killed them down the back straight. Like there's a sequence of 7 jumps in a row at Sandown, which will put him to the test. Now, she's unraced and heavy ground. They're all unraced and heavy ground. That was another kind of difficulty I have with the race. None of them really have like really heavy ground form. So I'm a bit of speculation there, and she's carrying top weight. But Henry Daly's horses are in unbelievable form. If you just look at the last 2 weeks, if you blind back his horses, if you're the tenner on them all, you'll be up 140 quid. So I'm hoping that she arrives here spot on, and it's a good each way race. I think there's the dead 8, so I'm going to do her win place. I think she's about 11.0. I'd be happy enough for that. If a horse or 2 comes out of it, I probably wouldn't back her. It's a tough race, and I know Adele, this is Adele's pick, but I'm going to play Slay Gemmeran as well.
No. I was going to lead in really softly with that, Adele. I can't believe
you.
Make the case stuff against the place.
Now that I've just listened to Dan and Deasy, I think I might even have to do the same thing. Again, though, I just thought it was such a difficult race, and I just couldn't find anything that I was like really wanted to like put my name to. And I know it's bad, but I thought I'm going to stick with the favourite. I know Our Jet, the horse, very well because he's ran at Wetherby a few times, so he's a horse that I've followed quite a bit. So I thought that was quite strong form. Obviously, he's gone on and bolted up since, but he still wasn't really stopping at the line, this horse. He's really kind of got him, he's going in the right direction, I think, over fences. That is a worry, of course, what Charlie said about the track. So I'm purely just going on a horse that looks like he's in good form. His form's worked out well. He has got form on heavy ground out in France previously, and he's been placed a couple of times. So look, I'm not like Deasy said, I'm not going to put my house on him, but he's the only one I could really kind of stick my name to. So I'm sticking with him. And hopefully Deasy's wrong.
Yeah, look, I'm going to make an absolutely terrible argument for this now, but like Gemmerand is I think he's by far and away probably the best horse in the race, and he's getting weight off a few of them. Like he's getting weight off Precious Eleanor PJB, who was interesting. I don't think he'd be able to jump. Like he's getting a few pounds and is progressive. But the reason I'm going to place them is that he's going to be probably a very sharp price. I can see more money coming from him. He could end up close to 2.0. So I mean, if you're placing for 2 places or 3 places, it's going to be odds on. He ran in this card last year and pulled up when it was heavy ground. He was in a handicap hurdle behind like Garda Dreams, a friend of four, but he was gone before they got into the home straight. He's a much better chaser than a hurdler. So it's purely a price thing with him. Like he's a good jumper and he is in form, but he's gone up a good bit in the weights. This is going to be a slog, and I'm just kind of hoping that he gets a bit stuck on the ground. And again, if it's a sharp price lay, if it's about a 1.6 or 1.7, I'd be happy enough to have a small bet in that.
It's the Our Jet form, I think, that's keeping him up the top there, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and Our Jet was actually very impressive. Our Jet was unlucky that time. He just maybe left himself a bit too much to do, but Gemmerand was jumping, won him that race, I think.
Yeah, so the strength of that is really, like you say, if they met tomorrow, like Our Jet would only be £1 better off with Gemmerand now.
Yeah,
like such was the strength of Our Jet's win next time out. So I mean, it is rock solid form to that extent.
Yeah.
So we have a win bet and a play stay bet on Gemmerand, so he's going to come second or third, no doubt about that. And Sovereign Thor for Dan, and then Precious Eleanor for DC at a price in that race. We'll move on to the first race in Wincanton that ITV will be covering. It's the 1:30. It's a 2.5 mile handicap chase. So we'll take a look at the betting as we currently have it at matchbook.com. You can max Celeb de Allen 3.4 favorite, Alexia de Nuts 6.1, Mescar de Zobo 5.5, and Colletti Bricks 6.88, Magic Saint 7.08, and Galahad Quest at 11.0 currently. A lot of those horses are similar price, so the market will kind of take shape as we get to decks. Over to you on this one, D. So it's interesting, this horse, Alexia de Nuts. He's obviously been around for a while.
He is, and he's dropped to a mark now where I think he has a chance. I mean, he was at one stage rated 150, 153. That was a good few years ago, and but it's not like he completely fell off the radar. He had 2 wins last season. Like he won on the 2nd of January there last year after a similar kind of prep. He had 2 quick runs, and I thought he was watch back because he was beaten by Excitations at Doncaster on good ground at the start of December, and I think maybe just a bit more cut in the ground if he'd slowed it down. I think Excitations probably handled the good ground better than him. And it was a great run by him. He was only beaten just on the nod. They've put a bit of headgear, I don't know, first time to sharpen him up. And like this is a tough enough race as well. This definitely won't be my biggest bet of the day. But I think he definitely has a chance at that price of 5.5. So I'll just have a little win only bet at him.
Yeah, Galahad Quest for you, Dan.
Yeah, look, catching on from what DC just said there, I think this is extremely trappy. Like a really, really trappy race. Probably the most difficult of the day to figure out. You can make arguments for pretty much everything, and then also you could argue why they can't win as well, to be honest. And I just saw Galahad Quest there at the bottom. I just can't have him as the outsider here. I just think that's wrong. Like, he's been very highly tried, as we know. Like, he's always seems to turn up in those big Cheltenham handicaps. I've never really thought Cheltenham suits him, but he's run really good races there several times. This is, I'd say, weaker. He's going to get softer ground, which is definitely going to help. And now people will point to the fact his disappointing run last time out. But I think it's important to remember the Yard were in a dismal form. Like, nothing was really capable of getting anywhere near. Now, the records will show you they had a winner a couple of days before, but it's important to figure out that was a 4-runner junior national hunt race. There's only 4 runners in it. 2 were single-figure prices, and the other single-figure price runner fell. Like, other than that, they hadn't got anywhere near to a winner previous to that. I just think he's back on a mark that he won off previously, up to 129. Cutting the ground definitely suits him. And now the only concern for me would be whether they're using this as a prep run for the race on Trials Day, which he was second in last year. That would be the concern. I guess the market will speak volumes later on there. But if he is trying for this, like, he shouldn't be the 11.0 outside of the field. I just think that's wrong.
Of course, every horse is trying, Dan, but I guess it's important to know what horse
to different extents
for that race. And then with Cheltenham in mind, particularly around the corner and the spring festivals, you're right. You got to find that horse that's going to. This is his day. Is it Celeb de Allen's day, Adele? Oh, sorry, that was me.
He didn't do anything wrong last season. Obviously, he ended up finishing 5th at Cheltenham in a grade 3 of 15. So he's got some good form to his name. And I thought he made a pleasing enough start back after 8 months off the track. That was over 3 miles, which is probably just stretches his stamina a little bit. So I definitely think the drop back down in triple suit him. And, he seems to handle any kind of going. Whether I think his best form is kind of on soft heavy. So whether it's going to be soft enough for him at Wincanton, I'm not quite sure. But I just thought he's got quite a nice little CV to his name from last season. Hopefully he can continue that on this season with a step back down in trip. So Philip Hobbs has won the race 3 times. So hopefully that's another added bonus to it.
Yeah, 3.75, pretty decent price to Lev Dallin. And the guys are going with Deasy's going Elixir de Nuts and Dan with Galahad Quest. We'll move on to the next at Sandown. It's the 150. And we'll take a look at the betting as we currently have it on matchbook.com. This is a 2-mile handicap chase. Cargeen Rock is the favourite, 3.75 with Grey Diamond, slightly bigger, 4.0. Ferrari Bambo is available at 4.5. The Last Day, 8.5. Dreams of Home, 12.0 and 15.0 and bigger the rest. Adele, we'll stick with you on this one. You like the Last Day here. That's currently around 8.5.
Yes, so quite a nice price. This horse just seems to be the best time to catch him. Is fresh from what I can see. Probably would have won at Haydock if he'd have stayed up on his feet. Again, that would have been his first run of the year. That was back in January 2022, and I thought he did really well to win at Aintree in a grade 3. Considering he'd taken such a bad fall, he kind of found himself well. So I think this horse is probably the best time to catch him is first time out. So obviously he's been off the track since April. But like I said, first time out is the time to catch him. So hopefully it will be on Saturday. So yeah, that's why I've gone with him, because I actually thought it was a bit of a difficult race, and well, they all are quite difficult on Saturday, but I thought this one was I quite like him. I liked his profile last year. I'm hoping Aintree's not just his specialist track, because I know both his latest wins have come there. Hopefully he'll be all right at Sandown.
Yeah, might be the day for the Last Day. So difficult that DC sits this one out, Dan, but you haven't, and you've gone with Ferrari Bambo, currently 4.5 at the moment on match.
Yeah, and at the top of the market, you've got the clash of the course and distance winners, it seems. Obviously, Corrigan Rock being the one who's probably on an upward curve. This is a much stiffer task than last time, I would say. Obviously, Grey Diamond is solid, but does find winning an issue, which I think you could also say is very true of Ferrari Bamboo, to be fair. But I think Ferrari Bamboo has been running in more of the better 2-mile handicaps in recent times. He's second at Ascot on his seasonal reappearance off £2 higher in a pretty deep race as well. Tried making the run-in last time in that very competitive Ascot race. I think they were just trying to make use of the fact that this horse often gets outpaced over 2 miles of good ground. And I just don't think it really suited him at all. He normally likes to be ridden a bit patiently, have something to aim at. And I think they'll revert to those tactics here on softer ground. And he's got plenty of pace to aim at. I think there's 3 or 4 who'd like to go forward. Say he's won at Sandown previously. He was second to Dolos off this mark, and they pulled well clear of a decent field that day. And losing to Dolos around Sandown is no disgrace whatsoever. I think if it's good ground, I would be struggling to convince myself that he could win this. But with the rain coming, it's going to be softer, heavy on the chase course, almost certainly. We know those are his conditions, and he was third in the Grand Annual off £1 higher in heavy ground. So if he's going to have a day over 2 miles, it's probably going to be this one.
Okay, yeah, the Last Day for Adele and Ferrari Bambo for Dan and the 150 at Sandown. We'll go to 205 in Wincanton and take a look at the betting. And we currently have a matchbook.com. You can back Destil at 3.01 and Turn to Civilo at 4.53, not available, 5.12. Another Crick 6.1, Midnight Midge 9.43, Caudo the King 21.0, and Native Robin the same price at 21.0. DC, we'll go to you on this one. Not available is the horse that you like here at the price.
I do. This was I was kind of toying between him and another Crick won it last year, but I was just looking back through not availables farm, and like it is 3p 3, 4, 5. He's been running in some decent races and has just been unlucky. But I thought he was very good the last time behind Gamaret and Gallicardi at Newbury. Again, that was soft enough ground. But he was a big price that day, and he just kept on going. You know, he was 7 lengths third, but he he handled the ground. He kept going. It was his best run of the season. Like he's been dropping away down the handicap. He was rated 128 at the start of the season. He's running in here now off 118. If he can build in his last run, I think he has a very good chance. And there has been a bit of money for him as well since Deck. So that's another encouraging one. So I just go win only on him.
I will just add to that because he was the closest I came to a bet in this race. So I'm kind of sitting it out. But what I would say is, for all that he's a very well handicapped horse, and he did stick on last day, he didn't really raise a gallop for the first half of that race. And I think I'd just be concerned on a sharp track like Wincanton, even on softer ground. If he travels like he did at Newbury the last day, he might just get left behind and they've given himself too much to do, which is kind of why I left him alone. But well handicapped to win a race. But to be honest, I think this race is an absolute minefield.
Yeah.
Adele, there's a few in the comments that are liking your pick here in turn the Civilo. A few people have napped him up in the comments and you like him.
I don't think things have really quite clicked yet this season for this horse. I think there's a few excuses for them. I mean, he did have a really tough task on his chase debut at Warwick. You know, he was in a deep enough race really for him against West Cork and Stage Star. West Cork rated 143, Stage Star 140. But I do think he showed enough to warrant that he can handle the larger obstacles. So I quite like that performance. Then I think he was just a bit too keen. They took him up an extra furlong at Fosslas, and he was keen. So hopefully stepping back down in trip will kind of find the key to this horse, because I think he showed enough at Warwick to suggest that he can, play a part in the race, handles the fences, and just hopefully it's just trying to kind of get the trip right with him. So yeah, that's why I came down on him. So I'm liking the fact that a few other people are liking him as well.
Yeah. It's always a good or bad side, and we won't know till the start. In turn, the Civilo for Adele and not available for DC. Dan sitting this one out. We're going to arguably the favourite race for most people, and I think majority of people in horse racing love these veterans chases, particularly this one at Sandown at this time of year. It's the 3 o'clock at Sandown, the veterans handicap chase. We'll take a look at the betting currently on matchbook.com. You can back Rams to Tele 6.88, Snow Leopardess 7.66. Prime Venture 7.75, Saint Javier at 9.82, Gustar Savola at 9.43, Cross Park 12.3, Ballyandy 12.8, and it's 20.0 and bigger the rest. Adele, I was quite actually interested in your horse here, Sir Ivan, at a price. I think to just get the price here for you, 21.0 currently. Third in the race last year, and I think it's £11 less than he went off last year as well.
And how can you couldn't write him off ever, could you? And Larkin seems to get a really nice tune out of this horse. Every time he rides him, they seem to run well. And I thought he was quite an eye catcher at Fontwell last time out. At a trip, probably on the short side for him. So definitely the step up in trip will suit him. Larkin's actually got quite a good strike rate at the moment. I think if you were to have £1 on him, you'd be up over, £6. So he's in good form. I just didn't think there was a lot of negatives about him. He jumps well. He stays the trip. He's a very much likable horse, so I just thought I'd have a place bet on him, but I might even have a little win bet on him now.
No, you're talking yourself into it now. 21.0 is the current win price, and look, given the nature of the matchup betting exchange, come the off, you'd be surprised 5-10 minutes beforehand those prices drift out as the market gets 100% liquid. You could get an even bigger price.
One favourite as well in this race for the last 10 years, so you definitely want to be looking at, I think last year's winner was like 18-1 or something, so I definitely think you want to be looking for horses at bigger prices.
Yeah, and you want to find a horse that's targeted for the day. That kind of put me off a few of them. Ballyandy as well, perhaps. DC, you like Run to Milan. There's a lot of old favourites here, isn't there?
This horse is definitely targeted for today. He won the first qualifier for this it was at Exeter last February and soft ground, and he beat Bellamy to pick on, and ASO Sir Ivan was pulled up. It was actually a decent enough race. He was back for it, won quite well, and he has been, I'd say, working backwards with the mark since then. He won that qualifier off 132, and he was here off 128. This is an incredibly tough race, and again, if we're expecting it to be heavy ground, it's going to be a slog. Like the one who would handle those conditions is Ramsey Detaye, but he's the favourite. He's carrying top weight. I don't want to be hunting a horse carrying 12 stone through the slog of Sandown at that price. So I just said I'd go with something at a big price. I'm happy enough with one to Milan. Victor Darton is well able to lay them out. So we'll have a small win place bet.
Yeah, Rams to Telly under a penalty as well. Dan, I think you guys have gone about it this race the right way. As DC said, you want one at a price, and Cross Park's a decent enough price. I think around 12.3 currently.
Yeah, no, happy with that. Look, we know these races. It's a great spectacle to see these old boys out, but it's always a really competitive betting heat, and rightly so. Like I'd say most of these horses would have had this race in mind for some time, so that you can rule out a few with that, but otherwise, a lot of them are all probably gunning for this and have been for some time. But I like Cross Park. I mean, he's got a bit more of a patchy profile, and he missed a couple of seasons with some issues, but they clearly kept the faith with him. They moved him to Nick Kent. Connections kept the faith, and I thought he made a really encouraging reappearance at Haydock the other day. Like, he was notably weak in the betting beforehand. Unsurprisingly, really, I doubt he was ever really going to be fully geared up for that on his first run for about 500 days. But that race has worked out particularly well with the big breakaway was second. He finished second in the Welsh National. Rab, who was third, bolted up at Cheltenham the other day as well. So that run is looking pretty decent. And he was bang there until about the second last, where he just faded out of it. So that was a really encouraging effort. Round Sandown, I am a bit of a sucker for Sandown form, especially chase form as well. And his Sandown form is rock solid. Like, he was second in this race 2 years ago off 148, second a couple of another times off 143, 145. And he wasn't beaten all that far in the Bet365 Gold Cup as a veteran when he was sixth, only beaten 10 lengths off 150. Now he's down to a mark 142 against probably an easier caliber of opposition than he's been used to competing against, because he was a top horse in his day. Soft ground poses no issues whatsoever. I'd say he's going to be geared up for this and this only as a 13-year-old. This is his end day, and hopefully he can go out with a bang.
Yeah. So Sir Ivan, Cross Park, Run to Milan, win and place. Guys, there's a lot of old favourites in the race. Very briefly, anyone want to give an honourable mention to someone, for anyone keeping an eye that's betting late that might go out to a wild price of 50, 60, something like that?
Gosh.
There's one horse that has been backed from Bormio, has been backed from 85.0 into 33.0 overnight. I was looking this morning, but I wouldn't back him with stolen money and heavy ground over 3 miles. Yeah, it's a tough race. I'd like to see Snow Leopardess.
Yeah,
I think she could be gone at the game, unfortunately. Yeah. And Celebra Darling actually qualified for this race, but he's gone for the other one. So maybe that could be a tip in itself. He's taking the softer option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he would never have stayed, I don't think, in this. He would have faded quite tamely, I think.
Yeah, DC is going to come back, but he's
No.
We'll move on. The 3 o'clock at Sandown Veterans Handicap Chase. That's for wrapped up there. We'll move on to the 2 mile, 5 furlong handicap hurdle at Wincanton's the 3:15, and Jubilee Express is a non-runner here now. So Chianti Classico is the current favourite. Quite short, 1.62. Surf Psycho's 4.5. Stoner's Choice 6.5 on Longshank and 19.0. DC, we'll go to you on this one. You're no bet. So we only got one person to bet here.
Yeah,
Dan, and in brackets it's no bet. So look, we won't spend too long Dan. So
no.
Sorry, the non-runner caught me off guard there. Go on.
Yeah, we were Jubilee Express coming out, and that was always going to be the thing. He's declared today, so he was never going to run. Look, Chianti Classico, we know form is rock solid. Like, beat Henry II at Chepstow, who won a grade 2 at Sandown, then won under a penalty to a second who was highly regarded. Third was well beaten, called Old Painless. He's now one over fences and now rated 121. So he's a rock solid favourite. I'd just say keep an eye on Psycho. He's an interesting horse still. He's still only 7. He was running well in deep handicaps as a 4-year-old off marks in the mid 140s a couple of seasons ago. He fell on his chase debut. They reverted to hurdles here. Just see if he shapes with some promise, because he'll get to a stage where he could be quite interesting and well handicapped. So just see how he runs.
Okay, that was probably the quickest. Go on,
I was looking at him as well. Like, he fell at the second fence the last time, but he was very, very fresh. He just jumped mad right at the first fence and did the same. And it was a heavy enough fall. He'd been off for a long time, but he had a lot of ability back in the day. So I'd be interested to see how he runs, but I wouldn't be too interested in backing him.
Yeah, don't have to have a bet in every race, of course. So we'll move on to the final race. It's the 3:35 at Sandown. It's the Unibet Handicap Hurdle. We'll take a look at the betting as we currently have it at matchbook.com. You come back to Jello, 5.02, lightly squeezed, 5.41. ICO, 5.8, in the air, 6.68. Hardy Desai to 9.23, and it's bigger prices the rest. We'll go to you. Well, firstly, I think first time in ages on the, or maybe it's the first time today. There is some agreement on the podcast, if I'm not wrong. Adele and Deasy, you both like ICO. Take it away, Deasy, perhaps.
Yeah, this is a tough racing tomorrow. I know he was fairly highly regarded by Nichols, and he won by 17 lengths in soft ground at Kempton in December last year, and he had to go out in at a few big races. He ran behind Pied Piper and Auchenrisk again at Kempton in February. I just think there's probably a lot of progression in him. There was a few of them I didn't like in this, so it was. I know this isn't the strongest case. They'll probably pat it out a smaller, but I thought there's a lot more to come from him, and this could be a soft enough race. There's definitely a few down the bottom there that won't be trying too hard. So if you like kind of really kind of short each way prices, like he's going to be probably about 5.0, 6.0. So if he was around that, you could have a little win bet and a place bet to cover your win bet if he doesn't get there.
And plenty of place options on Matchbook as well. Adele, make the case small bit better than these, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a lot to add because it was a really difficult race, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I looked at Gigello needs to probably settle a little bit more. A few of the others, I just thought, I don't know, they just didn't have the best of profiles and didn't really look all that straightforward. So that's why I come down on ICO, because he's actually got some decent enough form to his name. As Deasy's already said, he's tried higher levels in grade 2. Was the last time we seen him was in the Dovecote. So he's clearly got a bit of ability. I can't see why he wouldn't be able to win first time out. I know he did in he won his first ever time out in his career. So yeah, I just thought it was a difficult race. He'll handle the ground if it's going to be, heavy ground down there, which we think it will be. So yeah, it's not a strong case, but I just thought the others they were very hard to try and find, something like I really liked about them, about their profile. So Gigello might just settle and, that'll be the key to him.
Yeah. And is that the key to him, Dan?
Well, I don't know really, and I'm hoping their selection can help with that issue really in ICO, because we know he's a very keen going front runner, and I say his disappointment the last day just came from a refusal to settle because the pace was so pedestrian in that race. Outside of ICO, there aren't many other front runners in here. You'd think maybe one or two would be looking to go forward once the race pans out, but there isn't much else. So ICO's going to need to give Gigello a chance, and I just thought he was lightly raced enough. I'm willing to forgive last time out. And before that, obviously, we know he was extremely impressive and that he still has plenty of scope for improvement. So in a race that the guys have touched on, he's fiercely kind of competitive and a bit of all over the place. I'm happy to take a chance on him. And he seems a reasonable enough price now as well to me. I say one, again, I do tend to look at these ones at the bottom, just seeing if I find anything interesting. Palladium, I thought was an interesting one, considering he bolted up here twice as a juvenile at Sandown. Went off favourite for a Fred Winter of 137. He's now down to 126. If he was ready for this, I mean, there could be a bit of support for him at a big prize. I think he's like 51.0 currently, but it's hard to have much confidence on a 500-day layoff. And he's left Nicky Henderson's for Polly Grundy, although Santini did the same, and he turned out to run a few good races for her. So he's an interesting one. Maybe just keep an eye on the market because he's handicapped to win if he still retains his ability.
Definitely one that the market might tell. So that's the 8 races from ITV. Before we get into any other bet section, quickly point you in the direction of the insights.matchbook.com. All bets that I know we've gone through a lot quickly. That'll be a full recap, and I know a lot of people get on board and read over those bets on Saturdays. And if you are watching on YouTube, do hit that thumbs up, get involved with the chat, and if you're watching back after the live stream, do comment your best bet and take on the guys. Before we get into any other bets, DC he's got a couple of very interesting bets on his local track. But Adele, you have any other bet here as well?
Just interesting. I'll be watching Beau Zenith, obviously, in the first at Sandown for Gary Moore.
Very exciting.
Forms obviously worked out well out in France. So not quite sure what price he'll be, but I might add him into my multiples, I suppose, if he's too short for me to back singular. But hopefully he'll get off to a good start in the UK.
Hopefully it's a rival that perhaps can take on Lossiemouth in the Triumph. DC, talk us through this. You've written a lot of notes from Cork. So just maybe summarize it for the guys. I'll throw the notes on insights. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, this is more thinking out loud than a tip.
Yeah.
These again, I would be betting the house in these. So the first one is all those years in the 212 of Cork. No, he's trained by Charles Burns, and Simon Torrance is on him this week. So he landed a fairly massive gamble on heavy ground in a novice hurdle there on the 8th of January. So almost a year to the day last year. He opened up now at 8.0 and went off at 94. I can't think of it. 3.25. He went up 3.25 on the show. So there was huge money on him on the show, and he got up he won by half a length. Just got up in the shadow of the post, but he's turning up here now to his over 2 mile 4. I'd say the bit of extra distance would help him. And Simon Torrance he's a bit of a go-to guy for JP when he wants when the cash is down. So keep an eye on him. If there's support from now, he's unlikely to be missed by the market because it's a middling enough race. He could be second or third favourite. But if the money comes from, get on, because Charles doesn't miss with too many bulls like that. And then the second one is in the next race. This is just something I put into the tracker, and I noticed that in the day. A horse called Palladian Jewel by Thomas Cooper. Now he ran at Thurles. I'm just getting the date up here now. He ran at Thurles at the start of November, and the reason he went into the tracker was because he was back from 41.0 into 3.5 on the show. So there was a huge amount of money went on him as soon as the betting boards went up. He's beaten 10 lengths. He was travelling fine. He got around the home turn, and there was a trade him just went away from him. So they didn't even get the place money that day. But again, you just want to keep an eye on. He probably won't be missing the betting either this time. There's the dead 8 runners, so this might be an easier one. But again, if he's a massive price, maybe have a small little win place betting him just in case. But that's just something to keep an eye on in Cork. And Cork should be. There's been a lot of rain here now the last week, so it should be heavy Cork round. Yeah.
So those 2 horses again in the race times, these.
Then come on. All those years in the 212 of Cork and Palladian Jewel in the 247.
Thanks very much. And while you're there, tell us why Adele's bet Gemerad is a place late for you.
I don't know if I left 2 places or 3 places. Look, he's going to be a short price to win, which means he'll be an even shorter price to place. He got completely stuck on the ground at Sandown this time last year. I just had to look at the going report there. The going stick now is 4.5, so it's fairly heavy. It's just a price thing. He probably is one of the better horses in the race. I just don't know if he's going to love really, really sticky ground in Sandown. So if he's about 1.6 or 1.7 in the 2 place and 3 place market, I'll have a small little label on him, but it was kind of hard to find them. So I just said I'd do that now to annoy Adele.
Before we get to best besties, would you put up that price you want to lay place lay, or would you kind of watch the market 5-10 minutes before the offer?
I'd watch the market. Like if he's going to be backed, he's 2.75 now. So if he goes into 2.0, you would be getting a nice price on him and a nice price for him to lay. And it won't be an expensive loss if he does if he does get there.
Okay, we'll move on to best bets then. And Dan, you're going for the home run here in the Veterans Cross Park.
It's that kind of weekend, I think. Like it's a really tough betting card across the board, so I think you just kind of go one at a big price. And I'm going with Cross Park in the Veterans Chase because I mean, if it comes in, I'll look like an absolute hero. But I think he's teed up for it. I think he's got Sandown form in spades. Like we know this will be the target. He's shaped with plenty of encouragement last time out. Nick Kent can get one ready for a race like this. I just think he's well handicapped to win a race of 142. And in what is a competitive race, admittedly, he is one I have a lot of time for.
And Adele, over to you. You like the last day.
Yeah, I'm regretting not going with Sir Ivan, to be honest with you, at the place market. Like Dan said, maybe looking for something with a bit more.
It's not too late now, Adele. It's not too late.
There's just not that many runners for the place market. But I just think the best time to catch this horse is first time out, and that's on Saturday. So the last day for me, hopefully he wins, because I usually go for a horse that we all have agreed on, but it just
no agreement
that way.
No agreement. And Deasy's been slagging my best bet off air, which I'll get to in a second. Conal Harry, DC. I actually like this one at a price, to be fair, in the Tolworth, because
much like the
guys,
gets
really heavy. Like
you have to it's very hard to pick a nap this week, and I'm just going for a big price one. like Dan said, if he wins, I'm a genius. If not, sure, he's 34.0.
No one cares.
Yeah. But Colonel Harry and the Tolworth, I think think he should handle heavy ground, then he's a good chance of hitting the frame.
Yeah, very impressive first time out. I'm going for, I know the way you're thinking in Lollers of Naas. Gaelic Warrior hasn't been declared, so Grange Clare West he goes up against, and while that Mullen's favourite is, of course, is the most likely winner. I think it's been put in at about 2.25 at the moment. The market needs to settle down, but if you get any sort of price like 5.0, 6.0, very impressed with his two hurdles over 2 miles. The step-up trips should suit, and he's beaten odds-on favourite, or at least a Mullen's favourite both times, and well-fancied Mullen's favourites as well. And Gavin Cromwell's very bullish about this horse, so I think at about 5 or 6.0, definitely worth a bet in the win market, or even if you want to play it safe in the place market. We're done, Deasy. Just before we go, there's a couple of comments slagging Cork. Tom Lee says Cork is a graveyard for losing dockets. So
yeah, he's right. He's right. Want to be brave to be punting bigger Cork, but Cork is a great spot for landing gambles.
There you go.
A lot of punting yards around Cork. Mick Winters is only up the road. I didn't actually see if he's anti-running, but watch the money at Cork.
Watch the money at Cork. You won't go too far on. Adele, thanks very much. And the jump season, we're excited.
Yeah, I think obviously now it's kind of really going to start hotting up, isn't it? But I mean, we've already seen some really good performances. I mean, Constitution Hill for me though is the absolute standout so far this season. He's going straight to Cheltenham. We're not going to see him again from what I've heard yesterday. But I look forward to watching on in Tenerife.
Yeah, Adele will be in Tenerife for Cheltenham, so it's all right for some. On the last thing, Marie's Rock, Adele, you obviously tipped up for Cheltenham last year. You know the owner very well. She still hasn't really got the credit she deserves, at least by the market. I know there was late support for a tad, but she went off at a big price the last day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does anyone really know where they're going to head with her next? Because I think a few people were saying she should go for the champion hurdle, but I don't know whether she'd be good enough for that. But Ralph and Marie, who she's named after, Marie's Rock, they're the nicest people, and they've been a part of Midland Park for a long time. And when I was a jockey, Midland Park, I absolutely love them because they'll support any rider in the yard. You know, whether you're an apprentice or whoever he works in the yard, you always kind of tend to ride them. They never. They're not fussy with the jockey, should I say? The fact that they use me, so they're just a nice syndicate. But I thought she was quite impressive the other day. She wasn't a bad price. I completely and utterly missed her with me being so ill over the last week or so. I've barely watched much. I'm just kind of catching up on things. But listen, they might go for the big one. I don't know.
Yeah, they could go up to the stairs as well. I think 2.5 is probably her trip, but look, there's options there. The stairs looks wide open.
Really short though, hasn't she? Because even when you see Matt try and interview her with the microphone, she had a little shy away. She's not straightforward, but she's clearly getting better with age.
Yeah, and I watched back the mare. She was very impressive beating Queensbrook. Dan, you're doing your own stuff with the jump show and the building up to Cheltenham. You're obviously very excited.
Yeah, well, once we get to the turn of the year, that's when I really start trying to dive into these Cheltenham markets and I know something. Before that, I'm a bit tentative because I think, I can't go too early. But now, turn of the year, as soon as it hits first of the first, it's game on, I think. And I say we've got a lot coming up as we got Dublin Racing Festival coming up in a few weeks as well. We're getting towards those spring festivals. It's all going to start kicking off. It's all going to be great. February
bank holiday in Ireland as well. It's a new bank holiday introduced during COVID, so it'd be pretty exciting time. The Dublin
dreamy stuff.
The Dublin Racing Festival bank holiday for us horse racing fans. Insights on matchbook.com. Full recap of the bets from the guys. If you are watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed for free, it takes 2 seconds. We'd really appreciate it. Other than that, we'll chat to you next week. Tom will be back with a new gang. Until then, enjoy the weekend's racing, and we'll chat to you next week. Bye bye.